Hello everyone and welcome to Spark Finance. This is Andrew here and I'm here to bring you your business breakdown of the most important business news that recently occurred. To start off with, we have the Federal Reserve doing their bank stress tests. And they came out and said, you know what, you guys are well capitalized, you're doing pretty good. We had halted the share repurchase programs at the beginning of the pandemic to make sure you guys were all right. Now they're letting them do these share repurchases once again. So right after this news, you had JP Morgan announce a $30 billion stock buyback program already approved by the board of directors to start in January of 2021. Then next up, you have Tesla, which came into the S&P 500 index. It was down 6.5% on the first day, but then the next day, it was up 6%. So it's finding its new equilibrium. Remember, this stock is up about 1,276% for the year. So now we have to see, is that momentum going to continue now that they're index or level out because they need to keep having profitable quarters? Remember, the valuations on this one are crazy high right now. Then Congress announced their stimulus deal, $900 billion, where they're giving cash, free money to everybody, including Sudan and Pakistan, right? And it was supposed to have $600 checks to every American, but then the president said he might veto it unless there's $2,000 checks, not enough free money. So we'll have to see what ends up happening with that in the end. Then you have Peloton, which just hit an all-time high around 163 a share because they came out with this big idea to buy a manufacturing company, Precor, for $420 million. So by purchasing Precor, it's really going to help them out with these delays that they have. You go on their website, it's about a 10-week delay to get one of their exercise bikes. They bought this company with 625,000 additional square feet of manufacturing space to help deal with that situation. And now when they bought this company, right, the company's already, Peloton's up 400% year to date. They bought this company and their stock actually increased in market value $5.7 billion by making a $500 purchase. So that's pretty profitable right there just by itself. Next up, we have Bond, James Bond. Well, MGM, the company that owns the James Bond franchise, is up on the auction block. Now, back in 2018, CEO Gary Barber, he actually got fired because he was trying to sell this to Apple, and Apple was going to give him $6 billion, and he said, I could get way more for that. Well, now it's on the auction block for around $5.5 billion, and we'll have to see what they can actually sell for. Then, Sportsman Warehouse agreed to buy Great American Outdoors Group, which owns Cabela's. And Cabela's is a big magazine. It's like kind of like the old Sears Roebuck magazine, been around forever. Sportsman Warehouse was up 37% on the news. And they're paying about $18 a share for the other company. Then we have announcements in Britain of a super strain of the virus coming out that's very contagious, and countries shut off access. France shut off access to the main entry to Britain from Europe. And now they're saying that there might be not enough food in England after this situation, so they kind of rolled that back a bit, and there was trucks piling up, so France is now allowing the traffic to go through a little bit. It's more regulated now, and they're testing people to make sure that they don't have this new strain of the virus. Then you had foot traffic to physical stores for the holiday on Saturday fell 39.1%, and then over the weekend there was down 40% year over year, so pretty tough holiday season during the pandemic here. Goldman Sachs is coming out with their new kind of approach here where they're hitting the retail investors. They're going to be able to allow anybody with $1,000 minimum to invest to go into this robo-advisor group that they have. You still have to pay fees of 0.15%, even though it's just a robot advising you. But remember how, like in the past, they had this business with the Apple Card? They're really going into retail sector right now for investors. Before, you had to have a $20 million net worth to invest with Goldman Sachs. Then Apple rumors came out about an electric vehicle being produced in 2024 by the company. So remember Project Titan, right? That was a crazy idea that they had and it was canceled. Nobody knows what's going on. But if you look at Apple's numbers, they're spending $18.8 billion in R&D for the year. That's 7% of annual revenues. That's the highest amount since 2003. So they're spending a lot of money to research and develop something. Back in 2003, that was right before they came out with the iPhone when they were spending that money on research and development. So we'll see if they can do an electronic vehicle, potentially an autonomous car, or if it's just the software. Palantir was up 70% because they got a deal with the UK National Health Service worth an estimated $31.5 million. So they're going to basically mine the data that they have and see where healthcare needs to be initiated the most in the different areas that are hurt the most, right? It's like a $44 million, and hopefully it can help them out with that. Then another one. So there's an antitrust lawsuit now going into Alibaba, which is actually traded on the US exchanges. Now this is once again the Chinese government going after Jack Ma, who is, you know, the richest entrepreneur in all of China, and the government doesn't like when an entrepreneur is getting more power than the government. The communist government is supposed to have all the power, right? So the stock was down 7% on this news. They even said that they're trying to do some changes to comply with the new government kind of rules that they're putting in place. But this is basically just, they're stamping down on these business leaders becoming too powerful. And we're also seeing in the United States another one, like the Google lawsuit, the Facebook lawsuit, all this antitrust stuff going on. More news with the electronic vehicles. Well, we have Nikola, which they had their Republic Services partnership being ended. So they were supposed to make a bunch of these zero-emission garbage trucks. It's completely gone now. The stock was down 11% on the news. That stock has just been getting crushed. Then another alternative side of that is that Nuro, which is an autonomous vehicle company, they made a deal in California to have their vehicles operate on the road in the Bay Area. So this is a first for autonomous vehicles in California being able to operate on the road. So that's a pretty big deal right there. Now, when you think about the pandemic, yeah, things are bad here and things are bad in certain countries, but what about a place like North Korea that's completely closed off of the world? The trade that they had with China and North Korea was down 75% from the year ago period. The economy there might contract 10%, minus 10% for the year. Now, the last major contraction was like in 2012, I think it was, when it was 7.1%. They almost had a giant famine in the country. So what's going to happen with this now? Then you had Nike, which revenue was up 84%. They had higher profit, $1.25 billion or 78 cents a share. 3 quarters in a row of 80% e-commerce growth. So they've really been making the transition well to e-commerce, and they kicked out the wholesale business and the Amazon third-party sellers. Remember Apple Fitness now? All the Apple Fitness people have all Nike attire. So they're doing really well with that, right? And they're really trying to go into the next phase of their business. But all of their sales are coming from China. China was up 24%, America only 1%, North America 1%. We also have changing markets because the SEC announced that a round lot, which used to be 100 shares, is now changing based on a company's stock price. So if a price is above $1,000, you know, it's going to change down to maybe 40 shares. It's going to change to 10 shares depending on how high it goes. If a stock's worth more than $10,000, it's only going to be 1 share is considered a round lot. So we're changing kind of how the marketplace works and trading works. It used to always be 100 shares is a round lot. Then we have aluminum prices almost at why is that one hard to say? 2-year highs. So this is at $2,056.50, up 13% year to date. And this is an increase in demand for raw materials, potential sanctions on Russia, and people on lockdowns using aluminum cans for their drinks. Now remember, gold, oil, platinum, lumber, all these commodities are hitting new highs, guys. We're seeing a lot of inflation coming in here. Now we're seeing it in aluminum. This can really pick up. And yet, potentially, our GDP is expected to fall 2.7% for this year. It's been down every month since April. We've had a negative GDP quarter. Looking at California, a lot of people are moving out of California. It's expected to have the first net decline since 1900, according to the Brookings Institute. The state lost 70,000 residents since the annual estimate was developed last year. So we have to see the final census data and see the final numbers, but it should be interesting there. You could probably do a whole nother video on that. And lastly, we have CD Projekt Red, which sold 13 million copies of Cyberpunk, even with accounting for all the refunds and everything else. And they were actually profitable just by selling on December 10th their 8 million units that were already done in pre-orders. So on day one, they paid for all of their production costs, all of their marketing costs and distribution costs. and they're profitable on day one. You can see how big that this video game business is. And I talked in the other videos because there was a lot of bad news, and the stock, which is traded on the Warsaw Stock Exchange in Poland, was actually down significantly when the information came out about the returns. But you can see when these big hyped up video games come out, they are still profitable even when they have these glitches or bad issues that occur. So I thought that was an interesting note that the company is still doing all right. Hopefully they won't have to remove any or fire any employees or lay anybody off or anything like that because of this situation, since they did come out okay, it seems like. So thank you for watching, everybody. That was the business breakdown. Tune in next week and we'll give you some more of the great business news occurring.